All right, the incoming Trump administration is set to include the wealthiest roster of appointees in the country's history. According to Axios, Trump has named 13 individuals who are each reported to have net worths of more than $1 billion. That list, of course, led by Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk. The richest man in the world is heading up the Department of Government Efficiency Commission alongside fellow billionaire Vivek Ramaswamy. Joining us now, former Labor Secretary for President Clinton, Robert Reich. He has written extensively on his Substack about potential consequences of Trump's wealthy selections. Also with us, the co-anchor of CNBC Squawk Box, New York Times columnist, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Good to have you all.
Thank you all for being with us. Mr. Secretary, greatly appreciate you being on the show. I've been wanting to talk to you about this for some time now. It seems the further we get into the nominations, the more we see that this really is looking more and more like an administration, a government for the billionaires and by the billionaires. So what do you find to be the gravest threat of such an accumulation of wealth at the top of the United States government?
Well, Joe, good morning. And Mika, good morning to you. I think the biggest problem with having so many billionaires at the top of government is that billionaires don't exactly know how normal people live. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the way people get to the top of the Trump administration is by providing a lot of money. I mean, Elon Musk contributed, the latest data I've seen say that Elon Musk contributed something in the order of $277 million to getting Trump elected. And he has made, since the Trump election, in terms of his actual net worth, he has increased his net worth by $170 billion since the Trump election. Now, that's a pretty good return on investment. And the reason that is such a high return on investment and a high return for many of the other billionaires and multimillionaires in the Trump administration is that they are no longer, and the markets assume that they are no longer going to have to be worried about as many regulations, as many lawsuits. They're going to have a tax cut, an extension of the Trump tax cut. They're going to have, in other words, all the things they wanted and they bargained for when they put money into the Trump campaign. That's the problem. And as Louis Brandeis, the great jurist in America, said years ago at the end of the last Gilded Age, he was reputed to have said, look, America has a choice. We can have great wealth in the hands of a few people, or we can have a democracy, but we can't have both.
Mr. Secretary, good to have you on this morning. The great irony here, of course, is that Donald Trump won over working class voters across racial and gender lines. He is viewed in many corners of the country as kind of a working class hero to the extent you can be living in a castle on the beach. But what is the implication of this for regular people, to have people, billionaires in power, billionaires calling the shots? You talked about an extension of that tax cut, which expires at the end of next year, about a year from now, widely expected to be extended. But what does it mean to regular working people to have billionaires running the government?
Well, first of all, if the DOGE, as it's called, the department that's not really a department of government efficiency, actually does, as Elon Musk says it will, try to get $2 trillion cut from the federal budget. Now, your definition of waste and inefficiency and my definition of waste and inefficiency may be different from somebody else's definition of waste and inefficiency, but the only way you can cut $2 trillion out of the federal budget, you being a billionaire who's not going to directly suffer, is you cut where? You cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Those are the big places where you go. There is no other place. Or if you want to get rid of regulations, what do? You go try to get rid of health and safety and environmental regulations. Those are the ones that you as a billionaire are really up against in terms of your business, but those same regulations may be extraordinarily important to the average working person in America because they protect that average working person. The same thing with labor law, the same thing with monopolization. What you're going to do as a billionaire, a very influential billionaire who is now at the top of the Trump administration, is you're going to get rid of antitrust laws, which means that big monopolies are going to get bigger and bigger. Prices are going to get higher and higher because of the market power of these big monopolies. And you, as somebody who might want to join a labor union, are going to have less and less opportunity to join a labor union because the regulations are going to be tightened and it's going to be harder because the billionaires don't want labor unions.
To underline what Secretary Rice said, if you want to cut $2 trillion, you know the old saying that, asked, who was it? Willie Sutton. I don't know if what do you rob banks? He goes, that's where the money is. Well, the money here, 80% of it is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, defense spending, and interest on the debt. And you look at $2 trillion, you're not going to get there, first of all. But with what's remaining, they're going to be slashing VA benefits. They're going to be slashing transportation. They're going to be slashing education. They're going to be slashing health. They're going to be slashing the very things that Americans actually look at as what their federal government does for them. So that you can't get there from here. It's just a reality.
And that includes Trump voters, of course. I mean, this is going to, we talk a lot about him being afraid of alienating his base. This would seemingly be a really good way to do it. But Andrew, we know Trump famously himself in the first term, after passing a tax cut, addressed a crowd at Mar-a-Lago of his wealthy friends and said, I just made you all richer. They want to do that again with a tax cut. Also, it seems like those billionaires who have supported him or working for him, they're getting richer too. What's the reaction to that from the rest of the business community?
Well, I think the rest of the business community is both excited in one way and scared in another. They are excited by some of the regulatory policy or deregulatory policy. They do like that, and they are praying and hoping that the tax policy is lower, frankly, because what they're hoping to do is they want to grow their own businesses, which ostensibly would grow the economy. The question is, of course, whether you can grow enough revenue to pay for all these things. That is going to be the central question.
First of all, we heard under Reagan that if you cut taxes enough, then the tax cuts will pay for itself. They did not.
They did not.
The debt exploded. We heard under George deficit exploded. We heard under George W. Bush, if we cut taxes enough, then they're going to pay for themselves. And let me say, while I was a small government conservative, I never believed this because it never happened.
It never happened.
We heard the same thing under Donald Trump.
But you heard under Trump and it didn't happen.
He said, we're going to cut taxes. No, I want to play this out because people are going to be hearing this for the next 6 months. If we just cut taxes, they're going to pay for themselves and the deficit's not going to go up. No, we had the most massive deficits during Donald Trump's first term. These tax cuts don't pay for themselves. But what they are going to do with a country that's $36 trillion in debt, they're going to cause hyperinflation, which will act as a tax increase on the very people, along with tariffs, that can't afford it. This is going to bring pain to working class and middle class Americans if they move forward extending these massive tax cuts. $36 trillion in debt right now.
Well, so look, to me, there's two things that have to happen, and I don't know if you're going to get them. One is you're going to have to figure out the tax piece of this. I think it's going to be very hard to lower taxes from here. That seems almost impossible. You could try to get rid of some of the deductions and other things. I don't know what you do with SALT and the like for a lot of the blue states, by the way. I think that's a big piece. And then the question is, what kinds of budget cuts do you actually enact? Is that going to come from the Department of Defense? I don't know. I actually think it's possible this whole Elon Musk thing might actually work out in favor of actually reducing the Department of Defense's budget, or at least using that money in a better way. But I think these are the big questions on the table. And so I think that the business world is both, as I said, excited and possibly scared because they don't really know what happens to the tariff piece of all of this. How does that change the dynamic?
Mr. Secretary, when we talk about the unusual amount of wealthy people that is now being proposed to be in Trump's cabinet, at heart, at the bottom line is basically how people view government. And the average American right or left, views government as something to provide and protect and make sure their lives are stable. But the wealthy view government much differently in terms of them trying to make sure they're deregulated, they can do whatever they want to do, and keep them, all of us in them, away from interfering with us. Isn't the vision of what government is really at the center of the problem of having a bunch of billionaires running the country?
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And what we've seen since inequality began surging, and that was really about 35 or 40 years ago, and now it's really surged, is that the very wealthy in this country have seceded from the rest of the country. They don't need the kinds of public services that the rest of the country needs. They are very they don't want to pay the taxes to support those services because they don't use those services. They have private services. They've seceded into a private nation, in effect, of very wealthy people. In America today, to be extraordinarily wealthy means you don't have to see anybody who is not.
There you go. Former U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.